And really, one of the things that we're looking at as we're thinking about where do we plant, we don't. The thought is, well, you're going to bring somebody from Atlanta. You have a church planting making machine down there, and you're going to send them to California, and you're going to put them in the city because you need a church. No, we're going to find the man of God, the leaders that God is going to put in a community, and God is going to call them out, and they're going to infiltrate that area.
In fact, it begins with now we know which communities need a church.
Yes.
So our existing churches can adopt those communities in prayer.
Right.
They now, in other words, before we even get to finding the pastor to 100%. Go there, now we just start praying for that community, and maybe God raises up someone in that area, or a church nearby, that plants right there. Whenever you have that kind of data that Jimmy put together, it makes our strategy so much more maybe easier, you might say. It's easier to envision what we need to do next.
Well, and even we can go deeper into that map where we got to find out not just is there a church there, is there an SBC presence there, but what are the ethnic groups that are there in California?
Yeah, I know.
So there's so much
that'll help
to do
you with that. Call us over here at Church Matters.
Yep.
Which, by the way, you did not introduce us.
Yeah.
I know our missionaries, our IMB guys. You can't tell people who they are, but I thought Pete and I, you could let everybody know who's sitting at the table.
You're the only one that does the introductions when you do the intro.
Is that right?
It's part of your charm, so I don't want to steal that from you.
Oh, okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our show is brought to you by the lovely Sarah and the very handsome Pete and the other guy, Jason.
Yeah.
Who strolls in now and again.
But by the way, we do demographic work here in the Church Matters department of the CSBC. So when you take communities like that and you're wondering who are they and what do they need, call us. We can help you with that.
Mission Insight is an amazing program. I remember using it when I was in seminary for some of the projects that I had to do, and finding, the community around me, what kind of people lived in my community. I was doing like a 2-mile radius around the church, 5-mile radius around the church. And it's just an amazing, amazing program. Really helps you understand your community. Mm-hmm. So I love it. It's free because we pay for it. Out of cooperative program dollars, but it's in our Church Matters website for resources. You can go on there and find the link and ask for that information for your church. It's really helpful.
We get requests almost every week.
We do.
Welcome to the GC Collective podcast, brought to you by the California Southern Baptist Convention. From local missions to global impact, we explore the vision, passion, and heart behind our collective movement in California and around the world. Where better together isn't just a motto, it's how we maximize our impact in fulfilling the Great Commission.
Hello, CSBC family. Welcome back to the GC Collective podcast. 2 weeks in a row, Pete, that the three of us are here at the table.
2 weeks in a row on the same day.
2 podcasts in a row.
Right. By the magic of technology.
It's the way to go.
We've asked him to take off his sweater, and I put on a jacket.
We didn't do a wardrobe change. Why would you say that?
We don't want them to get tired of looking at the same clothes.
Actually, this is being recorded a little earlier than it's going to be published. We're in the middle of Staff Week. Mm-hmm. Do our people know what Staff Week is?
Probably not. It's the time of the month. We do this about 8 to 9 times a year, where staff that lives in other places like beautiful Huntington Beach, we make them come to Fresno.
That's right.
And they meet with their teams and they strategize, and we together we give reports. We do all kinds of different things that we can't do when we're
maybe
in
next month
places.
We ought to do staff meeting at the pier in Huntington Beach.
No, it's too expensive.
We're trying to be good stewards.
No, the pier's free. We can just all stand on the pier.
We'd all have to travel to Huntington Beach. That in itself is expensive. Gas is not cheap. And if you want an egg sandwich, good luck. You have to be a millionaire.
An egg sandwich. So we're here at Staff Week. The staff are here in the office, and we had kind of a really cool report. Francis brought in some guests.
Yeah, so we have had this relationship with what's called the APAC, which is one of the affinity groups. The IMB recognizes the Asian Pacific group, and we had two people that came from that area. One of them that works in a country, and he's been in a country that we can't tell you where he's from or his name. High security. And then we had somebody else, a couple that came from, that they're working in Indonesia. Mm-hmm. And it was really neat for me. One of the things I was excited about as they were sharing is that Indonesia has 284 million people in it. I think it was like 17,000 islands or something like that.
That blew my mind.
Right? Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. So if you're going to get from one place to the other, I guess you need a yacht. But as I was talking to the team leader there, who works with 25 groups, and then those groups have teams of missionaries from the IMB in a place where 90% are Muslim, right? But about 3 to 4% are considered Christian, which they include the Mormons, who are not Christian, and Catholics who are not, evangelical. So they include all these groups, and they're in this country. And as he and I were talking in my office, and I was sharing with him the strategy that we have of engaging, communities and making disciples, and then planting churches out of healthy churches, he's just smiling, and I'm looking at him and I'm going, why is he smiling so much at me? And he says, well, let me tell you about the strategy that we have. And he says,
in Indonesia,
right? And he says, it's, we engage community with healthy churches that make disciples, that plant churches out of healthy churches, and it's like, we have the same strategy.
Will you be my best friend?
And I'm going, we must have found this in the Bible somewhere, And so it was just so encouraging to hear the International Mission Board, right?
Yeah.
Our heroes, our champions, our missionaries that have given up living in one of the most easiest countries to live in, that have gone to places like Indonesia that are beautiful in some areas, and in some areas very hard to live in, among, a population of 90% of 284 million people, Muslim, to go there and share the gospel. And that we have the same strategy because it's a biblical strategy.
Yeah,
that is what Christ demonstrated to us. That is what we see in the New Testament, and how wonderful it is, and just affirming. And that was just one of the reports. Right. I mean, the other missionary that spoke, his testimony. Oh my goodness. It had, I've heard it twice. I heard it on Sunday morning at the church where I attend. And then I heard it again with our staff on Monday, and I cried both times. Yeah. Just to think of the persecuted church, right? That is faithfully doing the work, and to know that, God has called men and women to go to different places of the earth. And we as Southern Baptists, we come alongside of them, not just praying for them, which is the primary thing that we do, but we reach out to them when they come back stateside. We go out and visit them when they're on the mission field. We make sure that they're being funded while they're in the mission field. And we don't forget. Yeah. We don't forget. We say we as Southern Baptists have the rope of sand is what keeps us together, right? But really it's the Holy Spirit. It's we're brothers and sisters in arms. God has called us to be a family, to work together. And we choose to do this as a convention. And what beautiful things we get to hear that God does as we work together.
Yeah. I looked it up on the map. I did not realize where Indonesia was. It takes up a big chunk of the globe. I guess 17,000 islands would take up a chunk of the globe. Right there just above Australia and under like the bigger Asian continent. I had no idea.
Yeah, you can find some maps where it will overlay that onto America, and they'll just, you'll be shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of important work happening down there, big work.
And there were so many other great reports during the staff week.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard from Jimmy. He called himself Browning.
Jimmy Browning.
Jimmy Browning, after Will Browning.
They're sort of interchangeable.
Right. So, but he did such a great job just showing us where there are areas in the state that are unengaged. Almost 2,000 unengaged communities.
Yeah.
That was such a great map to have. And that's going to be a map that we'll use and that we'll be working on as we're looking to engage California and reach California for Christ.
I had heard Send Network California say they were going to try to have a church in every neighborhood. And I kind of turned a side eye to that notion. Like, how do you even do that? Sure enough, there was the map and they had the neighborhoods of the city highlighted.
Yeah.
So we are here today to kind of just keep the conversation of our big goal, right? Our vision for the state in front of our people, let them know where we're at in the process. And then we're going to start sitting down with some of our team leaders, our initiative team leaders, and talk about how your ministry, Jason, it'll be you today, is going to align with this bigger state vision. So Pete, give us an update on where we are, what the task force has been doing. What are some of the motions that we've made to progress as we get to your report at convention?
Sure. Well, at this point, it's really now falling on the staff. We've worked with the task force. We've aligned certain goals that we believe we can achieve if God helps us to get there. It's just a way of counting, of keeping ourselves accountable, and really an opportunity also for us to celebrate as we hit milestones.
Right.
And so some of those things that we're looking at are seeing 500 congregations that will be started in a 10-year period. These congregations, again, will be started based on a strategy from healthy churches that are multiplying, that have engaged a community. So in engagement, we want to see churches that are being trained, that are being funded, that are engaging a community that we identify as a place that needs to be reached, right? Through our Southern Baptist churches. So we think we can see over 1.25 million people engaged in that 10-year period.
Wow.
We believe that if we're engaging that many people based on where we're at today, that we could see our churches making disciples and seeing over 100,000 people get baptized over that 10-year period from churches that maybe right now are not baptizing as many, but Jason has the magic sauce. They call it special sauce. And we're going to be talking about that today, where the church revitalization team really believes that we can come alongside churches that are willing to say, hey, you know what? We're willing to try something different. We're willing to go out in faith and learn from others and work together with others to make disciples. Because the key to everything that we heard was what? The biggest need from our churches. Remember from the listening sessions?
We need to make disciples.
Yeah, we need to make disciples. We need to replicate disciples, right?
Yeah.
We need a bench was the term that was used many times. And so we're responding to that. And I really want to talk about that today because it's such a vital and important part of the work that we have to do to reach California and the world, right? We need healthy churches here to send missionaries in California, to send missionaries out of California to do the Great Commission work that God has called us to do. And I'm just excited about that focus for us because if you look at our partners that we have, not many are really sinking in deep into doing this. Now we're going to work with our partners because we all have an interest and the value of seeing churches get revitalized and make sure that we're helping them make good decisions. So it won't be us by ourselves, again, because we believe we're better together.
Right.
And we all have a lot to bring to the table.
Yep.
Yeah. So there is a goal for the Church Matters department that has been established.
Right. And Jason came up with that goal all by himself.
Tell us about your goal.
Yes. We're not only going to be starting 500 churches, but our department wants to help revitalize 500 churches
over 10 years.
Yeah. And a revitalized church is not just a church that's not fighting with each other, right?
No.
The way that we'll measure this, and this is the way we measure nationally as a Southern Baptist family, is that there's a 5% growth Right.
5% growth 3 years in a row.
3 years in a row, right.
That's what it takes.
To be a healthy church or
to be a growing church.
A growing church.
You have to have 5% 3 years in a row in your ACPs.
So if you plateau, what does that make you?
So if you lose 5% 3 years in a row, then you're a declining church. If you neither lose 5% nor gain 5% 3 years in a row, you're plateaued. So if you're like just going up and down between those two numbers,
simmering,
that's plateaued. So you have to grow by 5% 3 years in a row in order to be considered a growing church nationally. That's the national model that they use, and we've adopted that model so that we're all talking the same language. I asked them, I called North American Mission Board, I said, how do you define growing, plateaued, and declining? And that was the metric they gave us, and that's what we're using. Of course, it helps if people turn in their ACPs, so that we know.
Most people don't know what an ACP is.
Yeah. So if they do it, and they need to do it 3 years in a row, right?
Right. Yeah.
And if not, we're trying to get on the phone and call people, and we're also needing to work with our directors of missions to just say, hey, do you know these churches in your association? And we're trying to get our heads wrapped around the need. But already we know, and this is a national data piece, but it's true in California, that it's like 80-something% of our churches are either plateaued or declining. That's over 80%. And it's across the nation. And, why is that the case all of a sudden at the same time? Maybe it's because of the age of our nation, that the churches that were planted way back in the day, even 100 years ago or 50 years ago or whatever, they're getting to a certain season in their life where they've tried the new programs and they've tried this and they've done that and they've made a few changes here and there, but that's not cutting it anymore. They can't get 5% growth 3 years in a row anymore, doing those types of traditional changes. So what we're doing is we're coming along and saying, all right, if that's not working, what do we need to do? And our department right now, in fact, when people hear this podcast, they need to know that on this very day, there is a group of church leaders meeting at Gateway Seminary with me, and we are talking about this very topic of what is the situation in California. How did we get here? What does it look like? How do we define it? What's causing our churches to need revitalization? What's the obstacles to that? What have been the strategies that have been used up to this point that maybe worked or didn't work? We're covering all of that, doing the homework. And our goal with this meeting, and it's going to take place over 48 hours, and then we're going to meet 2 more times this year at least, maybe a 4th time. And we are going to design a statewide revitalization network. We're going to take these 30 church leaders, and I've got men, women, I've got people from the north, the central, the south. I've got people representing all the different ethnic groups. They're all meeting together so that their voices can be heard, their perspectives can be heard. And because we know that this isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
It needs to be a state-led collaborative effort. And we're bringing in, we've got groups like the North American Mission Board, the Baptist Foundation, Gateway Seminary, all the different associations, our state convention. All of these groups are coming together saying, here's what we can do to contribute to the solution. And our goal is by the end of this year to have designed and rolled out a revitalization network. And we'll come up with a name for it.
Yeah.
But that's what it will be. That, imagine this. Imagine a church will call their local DOM and say, man, we need some help. Our church needs some help. And that we want that DOM to be able to know, he's got to be able to say, yes, we can help you. And he immediately knows what to do. And our invention team will have designed the process on what happens next. And it's usually going to be offering that church several pathways to revitalize and giving them the choice based on their autonomy and their culture and their circumstance, their context. They will be able to say, yeah, this will work for us. We prayed about it and this is the path we want to go. And when they choose their path, that association, the CSBC, the North American Mission Board, all these other partners will walk with them on that journey for the next 3 years to help them turn things around.
Wow, we have a lot of churches, and based on the criteria that you laid out, that seems like a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Well, and it's not going to be done just by staff. The reality is we're going to have a lot of pastors that have done the revitalization work, that have learned the processes, that are going to walk alongside others.
Yes.
There's going to be some professors at the seminary. There's going to be some of our national leaders. There's going to be a lot of different folks that have a passion to walk alongside somebody else that has been trained, that has the right tools, so that you don't have to do this alone, right? You have somebody come alongside working with you. I'm really excited about this reinvention team, and I know you're struggling to figure out what name to call it, but whatever it is, it's really not about a gimmick. It's really about helping churches make disciples. It's really about churches being healthy and making disciples of Christ, raising leaders, right? And that's what I'm really excited about. But you're also doing something else just specifically for that. What's the other one that you're doing?
When we went all around the state, the three of us and many others on our staff, and listening sessions and talking to pastors and dealers. And one of the things that my particular department got a lot of feedback on, things that people requested, is we need help making, having a pathway of making disciples in our church. In other words, somebody visits our church, wants to join our church. Can we say to them, if you come here, I can take you from here to there in the next 3 years. We can help you become this type of Christian. Now, back in the day, some of us have been around a long time. We might point to Sunday school or the training union, all these programs we had. Remember those things?
Of course.
And for a while there in the 80s, it was the diamond with 101 too.
There you go.
Right?
But those were pathways that you could plug people into, and it took them on a journey, and they knew where they were going, and you could define what it was going to look like. A lot of churches don't have that anymore.
Right.
For various reasons, we got away from it, and we're exploring other things. And now all of a sudden people look up and say, we don't have anything, and we don't even know where to begin. So what we're doing in the Church Matters Department is we have partnered with a group called Replicate. And you can look them up online. Replicate is an organization that helps churches design their own customized pathway of discipleship. This is very important. In other words, we're not going to come in and give you another program. We're not going to come in and say, here's how to do it in your church. What we're doing is putting on a 2-day workshop in our associations. The first one that's coming up is going to be in Orange County. And it's a 2-day workshop where you bring of like 4 or 5 people on your staff, and we work with you, and we give you principles, and we give you some direction and some guidance. And over that 48-hour period, your staff will develop its own customized discipleship pathway. And in fact, it's such an incredible we call it a collab, that when people sign up for it, we begin to send them homework, pre-lab work to work on before they get there. And then once they leave, we work with them for years to come to help them implement this, so we don't leave them high and dry.
Right.
And so this is called Replicate, and it's targeted especially on building a pathway for discipleship. That will get folded in to our Revitalization network, the bigger network. When churches come and say we need to revitalize, we'll be giving them all these tools that they can choose from, one of which will be Replicate.
Now, Replicate cost. It's not something that's free.
No,
right?
This is an incredible workshop to be part of. So it costs $2,000 per church.
Yowza.
So what has happened is we have partners in our Southern Baptist family that have come alongside us to pay that down. Mm-hmm. For example, the North American Mission Board, they said we'll take $1,000 of that right off the top.
Wow.
So they will pay $1,000 per church. Mm-hmm. And then the CSBC is paying a portion of that. And then we've got groups like the Baptist Foundation coming in and sponsoring. And so we've gotten that cost way, way down for each church to make it affordable for them to be able to come and attend. Right. By the way, the one that we're doing in Orange County, it's sort of our pilot program. It'll be the first one in California. It'll take place in May. And so we were gearing up, getting ready to publicize it. And I have a limited amount of seats for how many churches can come to this first pilot program. And so I was working with your team, Sarah, in the communications department, getting our ads all ready that we were going to put out there to invite people. And I made a little text on my phone, and Will Browning had a text as well. And we said, we'll just tell a couple of churches we know and that had been asking about it, that we're about to publicize it. And those texts went out, and those pastors told their friends, and those friends told other friends. And I'm telling you, it was within like a 30-minute window, the whole thing had booked up.
Yeah. What a waste for communications.
Yeah. But to us, behind the scenes, we were just,
flabbergasted.
Yes. Dancing before the Lord, as we said in the last podcast. Because what that is, it's not that we did anything amazing other than we listened to what people were asking for. And as the CSBC, we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're like, is that what you need? Okay, give us a minute. We'll go find the best solution to that problem, and we'll make it available. And so that's what we did. Mm-hmm. And we're working with our association. So it's a state collaboration thing to where the CSBC is coming in, but we're hosting this stuff in the associations, and the DOM's getting involved, and he's like in Orange County with Victor, he's getting the churches that he knows wants this and needs this. And so what we're seeing is that now we'll do this over and over again all across the state of California. And so if you're listening to this podcast and you're wanting this, call your DOM and say, we won't Replicate.
Okay.
We're interested in Replicate. See if you can get it to our association. Because what we're going to do is start communicating with everybody and scheduling that. And it'll take us now a couple of years to get across the whole state. Yeah. So get your name in the hat.
And it's going to cost us. I mean, I just sat with him earlier today, and we were looking at his budget for the year, and I ended up having to give him an extra $17,000 to be able to do this kind of stuff with the churches that he's
out
working
of
with.
Communications department. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah,
Sarah was so kind. And so there's not a lot of money, but we're committed to seeing churches have discipleship processes that are healthy. We're committed to seeing churches revitalize. We're committed to this. And so we know that it's going to take funding. Yeah. And so we're so committed.
Pete, I just want to thank you. Because, yes, none of this can be done without a cost. Mm-hmm. And I said in that meeting with you, in the budget meeting, I'm looking at the numbers with you. And praise God, our churches across our convention are giving, and they're generous, and the cooperative program money is coming in. But you have to make those hard decisions about how to allocate that. Mm-hmm. And what do you prioritize? And you've made revitalization and helping churches be disciple-making churches, you've made that one of your highest priorities. And I think that's going to be a huge blessing in our convention going forward.
Yeah, and just talking back, I want to go back a little bit. You said something about the DOMs. As far as the task force goes, I know one of the things that the task force said, you cannot go forward until you get feedback from the DOMs. And we sent that survey. And I know some of these things are hard to quantify. It's hard to quantify spiritual effort, right? And progress. But we got a lot of responses from the DOMs, and they're going to be here at the end of the month.
Sure. I was encouraged, Jason, by the fact that they said, we've got multiple churches that we know today would plug in.
Yes.
Right? That's really encouraging, because the reality is at the state convention, we are one level removed from the local church. It's the directors of missions that, most pastors will know and call first.
Yeah.
Then they'll call state convention. And so it's important that the guy that has the closest relationship can identify and be able to say, yes, these churches, they're in, they need help. Come help them, and then we can come.
Yeah,
I agree. If it was the DOMs responding to that survey, so many of them said, it was almost all of them said, I've got 1 or 2 or 3 churches that need to be revitalized.
One said 20 or something.
Right now.
That wants to be right now revitalized.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say to the DOMs that are listening, or maybe the pastors, we're inventing that right now. Help is coming. Help is on the way. And then, like you said, there were a few that had this large group. So there's some DOMs that are already locally in their association doing some revitalization network type of work right now. And so they're kind of gearing, they're going to be a little bit ahead of the game, and they're going to be ready to plug into this right away. And they're probably going to lead out as models for the rest of the state. And then there's a few DOMs that said, man, I don't have any churches right now that want to, they need to, but they're not wanting to. And I just want to say to you guys, we're praying for you. And we believe that the movement will eventually come to your association as well.
Yeah.
Because this is a God movement. And we're going to pray that God moves upon the heart of those churches in your association. And if even one of those churches will have revival and say, let's start thinking out of the box. We can't keep doing the same thing. We're dying. We believe it'll spread to others. So usually when people see the church down the road doing good, then they want to get in shape as well,
Sure.
And so it's going to be an amazing thing. And it's going to take now several years for this to roll out.
Sure.
Right? Let's be realistic about it. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of collaboration.
California's a big state.
It's a big state. But the more people that get involved, the more people that become actively engaged, the faster this will go.
Yeah.
And if I don't have to come looking for you, but you come looking for us and saying, hey, count me in, brother, I promise you, we'll count you in. And you'll be moved right to the top of the list for us to get involved with.
So we have the invent team. We have the replicate.
Yes.
And then you also have something else up your sleeve.
We do renew conferences, we call them right now. And these are 1-day conferences in associations where we basically come into an association when a DOM asks us to come in, and we will invite churches in that association who are wanting some help, and we'll invite churches in that association who want to help other churches. And we get them all in the same room and start building these relationships. Now, we're going to be bringing more and more tools to these relationships so that they can do what they're wanting to do. But even right now, we're going around building the relationships of churches that are saying, hey, we need help. And other churches that are saying, hey, we want to help.
Yeah.
And that's another beauty of the Southern Baptists.
Yes.
We are better together, and we are literally living that out in these Renew conferences. So they're 1-day events, and they're actually a half-day event. It's something like we can come in at 9:00 and by lunch we're out of there. So it's not going to take the whole day, but it is an opportunity to put those who are looking for help and those who are willing to help in the same room.
I was at a pastor and wife's retreat a couple weeks ago, and one of the pastors that was there that typically does not go to many meetings, his church is running 5 to 7 people on Sunday mornings in a small community, and he just kind of feels a little bit out of place when he's gathering with other pastors.
Sure.
But as he was in that meeting and he came in and talked with me after I preached, I could see that he was looking for help. And so one of the things that I did is I connected him with one of our stronger, healthier churches from that same association that were there. And I said, could you imagine if you would send a mission team to his church? Could you imagine if maybe you would share 2 or 3 families with that church that lived close to his area? Because they're not far away from each other. I said, that would make such an incredible impact in that community. And it's a way of sharing resources and really adopting a church that's struggling, a pastor that needs encouragement. And I probably no one's done that better within our state in the last couple months than Valley, right? Valley Baptist Church in Bakersfield. They sent close to 100 people to a church that, was struggling to find a pastor, was aging out in its community. And they sent 100 people out with a pastor. And now that church is doing really well. And so I think that kind of dynamics of our churches working together, sharing the mission together, understanding the needs that we have for one another and caring for one another more than just giving money, but really sharing the work, sharing the load of ministry.
You're right.
Can go a long ways.
And the thing is, money doesn't solve everything. When you're talking about revitalization, that's usually, church planting requires a lot of money. Revitalization, many times money's not the problem. It's other things. And it could be leadership, it could be fresh vision, it could be just a whole new design and sometimes a whole it's a replant, or another church adopts you. So there's all these other options that really don't have anything to do with money. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because this is sometimes we just get used to over the years that if here's the problem, throw a little money at it or put something in the budget or buy another little program or whatever. But no, this is going to take much more, a much different approach. And that approach is relational. It takes the community.
Right.
It takes Southern Baptists working together. And it goes back to your vision. Your vision for the state is about expanding the kingdom with all these new church plants. But if you're losing churches on the back end,
right,
you're not really going anywhere.
That's right.
And so you have a holistic vision for us to be able to reach that 1.25 million people with the gospel on a regular basis. It's going to take not only new churches, but it takes taking our legacy churches and getting them into a new chapter of life.
That's right. That's right.
Well, it's really exciting to see how the vision is bringing focus to all of our work and our energy here at the state office. And so we'll continue to have these podcasts with the different team leaders and see how they're all progressing as well. For Jason, for those who maybe haven't heard all of our past podcasts, you want to do a quick plug for the toolbox?
Oh, yes. If you, at the Church Matters department at the CSBC, we have a page on the CSBC website. So you just go to the main page, look for Church Matters, click on that, scroll down. And on our page, you will see what we call the toolbox. And the toolbox is where we've taken all of the most common requests of our department, such as help us with bylaws, help us with being compliant with state laws, help us with pastor search, help us with demographics. All of these very common requests that we were getting our department, we put them on that one page so that it's one click away, anytime, day or night.
Yeah.
You can go there and find most of what you're looking for. And of course, then you can call us and email us and we can help you go even further than that.
Yeah. It's a great resource.
Yeah,
really great resource. All righty. Exciting times here at CSBC. We need a funny story, guys. Let's wrap this thing up.
Ouch.
Well, I was going to ask you, have you ever, has your phone ever thought it heard you say, "Hey Siri"?
Well, my name's Sarah, so it does get that a lot.
And I don't know if me just asking you that, everybody's phone's not going off right now.
Right.
So the other day I was having a conversation with some pastors about churches reproducing.
Oh, no.
And guess what?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You got a biology lesson.
Yes. You talk about awkward.
It's always when you're with the pastors.
All of a sudden, Siri.
What'd she say?
No, I don't want to know.
Even gonna, look, it didn't matter at that, because you just got to imagine that this woman's voice just chimes in the middle of your conversation talking about.
So brazenly so.
We'll call it the birds and the bees, all right?
Which pastors?
Yeah.
Were they like really, elderly?
We won't name any names. It's just funny moment.
Did you turn red? I mean, were you embarrassed?
I didn't know it was my phone at that. It's one of those, you know how it goes.
So you let it go.
Yeah. Everybody's like looking around. Like, at first, who is this lady? And why is
about
reproduction?
Technology, man. It'll be the death of us.
That's a sermon illustration waiting to be used.
Oh, man.
That's funny.
You ever had anything like that happen to you?
Yes, but we're not going to talk about that.
That's so funny.
It was really bad. We're not going to talk about it.
Pete embarrasses himself enough through all of our funny stories. He deserves a pass.
You don't need AI embarrassing him.
No.
It's going to get worse.
It is. It really is.
It's going to get worse. All righty. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. As always, we have an email address, podcast@csbc.com. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.